So today we're going to be talking Dungeons & Dragons. Name a popular endgame monster that gets underutilized by DMs.
It's right in the title. Dragons.
Absolutely. They don't get used well enough, do they?
No, not at all.
So I think today we should do something about that.
Yeah, we should probably talk about it.
Let's talk dragon tactics.
All right, we're talking dragon tactics.
Hello, welcome to GameMasters Studio, where we'll be talking tabletop role-playing games, tips and tricks to help you bring your game at home up to the next level. My name's Jerry, aka Frieden.
And I'm Jared, aka dm.f.
Today we're talking dragon tactics. Dragons are a great set piece, they're a wonderful antagonist, and they're a great endgame monster to really challenge your party. The problem is, a lot of DMs see a bunch of numbers, they see a big beast, and just throw it at their party without really thinking and putting detail into it. Dragons are highly intelligent, very resourceful creatures that can send an entire party from perfect health, top of the world, into an introduction to what total party kill looks like, but only if they're used right. So today, we're going to talk about what you can do to help bring your dragons up to the level that they kind of deserve. So, dragon tactics. People don't use them. They don't use them appropriately. Let's start. What would be the main thing to utilize if you really want your dragons to be a threat, to make the party really worried? Where's the first place that you go?
Flyby. I mean, that's the first place that I go. I think that most DM, or maybe not most, but a lot of DMs that I've seen, they tend to throw their dragons straight into melee. They land them, first mistake, and they just start beating up the party with all their physical attacks. They're just a giant with wings. I think that the first thing that you should be thinking when you think dragon is flyby breath weapons. You fly over the party, you do your fire breath, your acid breath, your cold breath, whatever it is, you fly back. You know, you roll, if you're doing 5th edition, roll your recharges whenever your breath weapon's back again. All of a sudden, 2, 3, 5 rounds later, boom, dragon's flying back over the party, breath weapon again. And just flyby attacks. You can destroy a whole party without them ever being in melee range. So I mean, which is another reason why dragons are a high-end, creature. They're a high tier. You shouldn't be fighting them at lower levels, unless, I mean, if it's a wormling or whatever, that's a different story. But for the adult and ancient dragons, you should, what you're doing. You should be able to handle, or a flying creature, or be able to get, fly up there and deal with them and go to toe to toe. Do something about their flyby with breath weapons.
I mean, really, a built-in breath weapon plus fight, it's like throwing a fighter jet into a medieval situation.
Yeah.
It's really hard for players to contest with that.
Yeah, it's very true. I mean, you're going to be, you're all of a sudden, your rangers or your range attacks, characters and your wizards are going to be your dominant damage dealers against the dragon. And that's assuming that the range, the bow user or whoever has a magical weapon to get past some, damage resistance that they have, and that the wizard has something prepared that the dragon's not immune to. And that's, again, assuming that they are within the range of whatever the dragon's flying by at. I think most their breath weapons are in like the 120-ish foot range. So, I mean, you got to be able to reach that 120-foot range that they're flying by at.
I mean, you're looking at bows and crossbows, but thrown weapons aren't going to affect them.
Yeah.
Short-range spells aren't.
No, not at all. Yeah, you need long-range weapons, you need long-range spells, so...
I also think that the flyby attack is an excellent set piece for DMs to use. They actually utilized this in a recent episode of Game of Thrones. If you watch it, I actually don't, but still, it was impressive enough that I saw it online so many times. The dragon doing the fly over the city and just blasting things. I think that's also a great bit to throw in to your games as the PCs, maybe watching from the walls of the castle or somewhere on the battlefield, and the dragon strays a different area. Doesn't even affect the PCs at all. He just goes and just wipes out a division of allied troops, and now you have your PCs going, oh crap, we need to deal with the thing that just did that.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's a freaking dragon. Like, what? Like, I feel like I don't need to say anything else, but yet at the same time, like, I clearly need to, because I've seen them just abused and misused so many times.
Dropping down to the Rodney Dangerfield of D&D.
Yeah,
they get no respect.
Yeah, they get no respect. I mean, I think that there's a lot of DMs and GMs out there that like the concept of dragons and love to use dragons, but they just don't use them properly. So, I mean, which is the whole point of today's episode. But I've seen them just fall down from the sky for no reason, never even using a breath weapon, not even like on their descent or their initial flyby. They fly over the party, they land, and they start just clawing and biting and maybe smacking someone with a wing or a tail. And that's about it. Like, they're just this giant beat stick. And like, what's the point? Like, they're this powerful, magical creature, and they have so many things at their disposal. Like, say all of a sudden you take flight and breath weapon out of the situation. They still have so much going for them.
Yeah, and we're going to be talking about that. They have, because we come up with a list of all sorts of advantages they have. Next one we've got on the list, we got minions.
Right, yeah, I mean, how many, like, there's whole books dedicated to dragon cults.
Yeah, I mean, on its own, a dragon is impressive. You know, it's a powerful single challenge. But a crafty DM, that dragon isn't existing in the world on its own.
No.
It's attracted followers, or it's brought in enough money to be able to hire mercenaries, or it has lizardmen and kobolds that are worshiping it as a physical god and willing to be the fanatics and die for its cause.
Yeah.
You know, if a party goes from the end of a long rest to fighting a dragon without having to ever face anything else in between, it almost feels like the DM's doing it wrong.
Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be situations where, you know, it's a solitary dragon, or it just wants to be left alone, or it's, you know, maybe it's nearing the end of its life, you know, natural life, and it just doesn't want to have a lot of disturbance or noise around. But yeah, you're atypical, especially if you're using a dragon as your big bad guy, or as the climax to your adventure piece in a mid or high level game. Yeah, they're going to have hirelings, they're going to have minions, they're going to have devout followers, there'll be dragon cultists, you know, there might be a religion built around this dragon, you know, this whole clan of kobolds that pray to it every day, and, you know, thank you for letting us live another day.
I think even the most antisocial dragon is going to at least have second thoughts when, you know, the cult shows up. Oh, let us worship you. No, go away. We brought you lots of gold. Well, let's come in and talk about it.
Yeah.
You know, they're going to be giving tribute to it. So the dragon has a reason to keep them around, in addition to being, you know, the fact that a minion is a comfortable place to stop an arrow.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be hard for the solitary dragon to say, you know, no, I don't want your gold, or no, whatever you do, don't keep other people away from me. You know, so yeah, I mean, it's an easy argument to say that there's a lot of minions. Again, like dragon cults, you know, kobolds, those are easy things to throw out there. You mentioned, you know, hiring with all the money they have. Now, I mean, if you want to play the greedy dragon that doesn't want to spend any gold, sure, fine, but they can still, you know, if you guys don't help me, then I'm going to burn your whole family down to the ground. Okay, sure, fine. Oh, sorry, yeah, we'll help. You know, the nearby village, if you ever allow any adventurers to come and bother me, I will take this place down to ashes. There will be nothing left of this entire town. So now all of a sudden you have a whole town I wouldn't call evil. We have a whole town trying to thwart any adventurer that is trying to pass through to head towards the dragon's lair.
I mean, that might also just be a case of then the townsfolk put the burden on the adventurers. Well, if you attack that dragon, he's going to come back here and slaughter my family. No, I don't want you to go.
Yeah.
And when the players realize that, they're now going to have that dilemma. Because if we can't do this 100% perfect, it's those farmers that are going to pay the price for our failure, which is a great way to put a moral dilemma on good flavored characters.
Yeah. So you have that, you know, like lots of different ways you can flavor up the minions, lots of different options there. Then we get into the magic.
Well, actually, this kind of blends in with magic, but it's also with minions. Mm-hmm. Is you also have to realize when you're talking dragon cults, you're very likely going to be led by high priests.
Right.
Priests are going to have magic. Mm-hmm. So you're going to have a variety of powerful characters. You know, even a kobold cult can have some very powerful magic users in there. And you can also use that as a DM as part of a tiered storyline, with the dragon being the ultimate bad guy, but you start by having to deal with these low-level cultists, build up through the cult. As the players increase in level, they're facing more and more challenges, with the ultimate pinnacle of the campaign being, we need to take out that dragon.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree.
So, but yes, the magic. Dragons should have access to quite a bit of magic if you want to expand on that topic a bit.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. I don't know what editions of Dungeons & Dragons you might play, or if you just play an alternate system and use dragons still. In previous editions of Dungeons & Dragons, dragons have had a lot more innate magic and natural spellcasting abilities. 5th edition that's kind of swept away for the most part. They're described as very magical creatures, but yet they don't have any magic actually on their stat card.
Don't you still have the option, though, of adding class levels?
Yes, you can always add class levels, and you're the DM, you can do whatever you want. I particularly believe that all dragons are magical creatures, and I kind of like the concept of 3.5 where their CR rating basically equated their like natural sorcerer level. You know what I mean? Especially in 5th edition where like there's a whole dragon bloodline based on the fact that like I have a little bit of dragon blood in me so I can cast magic. Well, dragons have a lot of dragon blood in them.
Yeah.
So you can always just flavor that up like, okay, well, if it's a CR 13 copper dragon, it's also the equivalent of a 13th level sorcerer.
Which may be a little bit powerful. But, you know, one, this is scaling your dragon up and down to meet your party. But two, you also have the option of saying, okay, this is a very powerful bronze dragon. I'm going to pick 3 or 4 spells that are very thematic and give him access to cast those once or twice per day.
Right, yeah. I mean, you don't have to give them the full weight of the 13th level sorcerer class. You can just give, say, okay, well, if they're 13th level, they have access up to 7th level spells. And I'm going to go through and pick and choose this handful of spells that I would like them to have access to. It's just an easy way for you to kind of like add some mechanics to it without having to like, well, how much power do I give them? But even if you don't give them, stat or class levels, or you just want to give them a couple spells. I mean, again, you're the GM. Do whatever you want. Give them some spells. Just but again, they're considered to be very magical creatures. But if you take the whole innate spellcasting or adding class levels thing aside, they're still treasure hoarders. They're going to have access to some magic items. There's no way that they've amassed the equivalent of being a billionaire, maybe even a quadrillion billion gwillionaire, they're going to have some magic items in their treasury. And that's probably a good plot line for a lot of adventurers going to find this dragon. Because not a lot of adventurers go out looking for possible death. They go out looking for reward.
Sorry, I now have the image of a dragon who's decided he wants to try to beat Batman.
Hey, why not?
I've got all the equipment. I've got all the gear. I can do it. Because I'm Bat Dragon.
Dragon Man? But yeah, so they're going to have magic items in their inventory. Maybe even a utility belt.
And something that's come up in 5th edition that's a very interesting touch on the magic flavor is the regional effects.
Yes.
This is something that's new for 5th edition and really kind of cool in that dragons are the powerful magical creatures that are so powerful that they warp the world around them. And where they've set up the lair, they start developing these regional effects. In the pre-show, we were looking and talking at the red dragons, which start having like the rocks start becoming jagged and random portals to the elemental plane of fire start opening up, and all the water is warm and tainted by the taste of sulfur. And it really adds this nice ambiance and environment, and also adds these additional nuances to, okay, you're trying to get to it. You're trying to go kill that red dragon. Well, now you're going to have salamanders and mephits and azers that are showing up and just randomly running around that may run into your party. And when you're at the level where you can handle a dragon, you can handle these things, but they're taking resources that once used up won't be available for that fight with the dragon.
Yeah, which just feeds right back into the previous, subtopic of minions. So you got, all these elemental plane of fire creatures just hanging out, wandering around. Like, they might not necessarily work for the red dragon, but they're there because of the red dragon. Just the magical flavor. So you don't have to have them, weaving wish spells or anything like that, but you just have that magical flavor with the regional effects.
Granted, if any antagonist has a wish spell available to them, it should probably be a pretty short game.
It should be, yes. And then also lends into layer actions for more magical flavor. Dragon, they can summon different green dragons can summon bushes and vines up out of the ground to entangle the party in their lair. And there's lots of different options there. Fire dragon or red dragons can summon little spouts of magma to burst out from the ground and clouds of sulfur to engulf them.
One of the ones I kind of like, white dragons, normally not very powerful. If you're facing them in the lair, they can slam the ground and cause these ice stalactites to fall and just crash down left and right, which really just seems like a nice video game effect almost.
Yeah, and that's kind of I honestly think that's a little bit what they're going for. Not just I think they're almost forcing GameMasters to have flavor in these cinematic environments for these like final showdowns, for your final boss battle.
It should be a dramatic, epic battle. It's got to have stuff in there that the players are going to remember. If your players are going in for a fight against the dragon, it's the climax of the campaign. You want this to be a fight that they're going to be telling stories about for years.
Yeah, and part of me, like, I want to kind of pat Dungeons and Dragons on the back for putting that in the book, and then part of me is also a little sad where it's like, well, I mean, did they feel they had to like put that in there? Like, we weren't doing it on our own, but apparently we weren't, because again, we're doing this episode on dragons. So I really like that, the 5th edition monster manual spends a lot of time telling you about the monsters and how you can use the monsters instead of just giving you stat card after stat card. And so that's one of the things that they added was, these regional effects, these layer actions, and then of course, which leads into also they have legendary actions. So if which helps with basically your action economy. When you're fighting just a single monster and you have a party of, especially like if you have like a larger party of like say 6 or more PCs in a party that are all 14th-ish or higher level, they're all going to have, the fighter's going to have 3-4 attacks. All your melees are users or combatants are going to have 2+ attacks. Their attacks are going to do a lot of damage, so there's a lot of actions happening within the party.
Throwing out spells and summons and spiritual weapons,
action surges,
and area effects.
Yeah. So there's a lot of actions and different attacks that are coming at the dragon, and the dragon is still just one creature. Depending on how you flavor your combat, I think it's good to throw some other stuff in there, like have some fire elementals and some salamanders and stuff mixed in there. Not to mention some minions to just flavor your combat. But on the topic of just pure dragons, to help the action economy, we have the legendary action, so they can do a tail attack or a wing attack. At the end of every character's action, they can take a legendary action.
Yeah, for people who weren't aware, legendary actions are a new introduction in 5th edition, which allow powerful creatures to take extra actions during the round in order to help resolve that action economy issue.
Yeah, so your dragon's not getting their 3 attack. Or in 5th edition, they get claw bite during their turn, and then the players all go, and all of a sudden 1,600 attacks are coming in at them, and then the dragon might survive 2 rounds and get 2 attacks. So legendary actions is going to help kind of even the playing field a little bit if it's just dragon versus party. So yeah, so pretty much all creatures that I can recall that have legendary actions also have legendary resistances. Legendary resistances is a feature in 5th edition where a creature is able to make a save throw, and if they fail, or I mean technically if they pass, but there's no point, if they fail a save throw, they can choose to instead pass it. So I'm pretty sure all dragons that I can recall off the top of my head have that ability to do that 3 times a day. So 3 times per day, they can just take any save throw, which they have good save throws to begin with. They're not going to be failing very often. But they can just choose any save throw that they failed to then instead pass. Which is going to kind of put a damper on a lot of the wizard and sorcerer, a lot of those spells that are being thrown around at them.
I mean, at first glance, it really does appear like this makes spellcasters useless. But that's not the point. It's going to make it so the spellcasters don't end the fight immediately.
Right.
We roll initiative, wizard wins, cast Finger of Death, fight is over.
Right.
The spellcasters will still have attack roll spells, and they'll still be able to do a variety of buffs, but they just won't be able to end the fight right now until they've burned through all those legendary resistances.
Right, yeah. I mean, it makes it so you have to burn some resources. I mean, you are going to be burning some resources if you want to be taking out a dragon. It's going to also try to force your spellcasters to probably have a plan ahead of time. They're going to, if they're going after a dragon, I would hope they've done some research. They know a little bit about dragons. They know that they are tough to get through, get spells off on. So it's going to be one of those where they need to be forcing the dragon to make saves, but they're going to be trying not to throw out all their best stuff right off the bat, or have an extra one, like throw out 3 fingers of death, but have a 4th one up their sleeve. You know what I mean? Like, I need them to fail 3 times that they're going to force themselves to pass, because they have to, maybe they'll just be like, you know what? I know he's got another, I know he's got some more power. This guy seems powerful. He might have another finger of death up his sleeve. I'm not going to worry about using a legendary resistance, pass on this minor little debuff. Like, maybe you put a Bane on me, whatever.
Or he throws out a shatter. Well, I'll take the damage. I have the hit points.
Yeah. So the dragon's a very intelligent creature. They're going to know when to try to pick their spots, or they should know when to pick their spots. I mean, obviously it's up to DM play, but they're going to probably choose to take some hits here and there, knowing that there could be more powerful spells up their sleeve that they need to save those, auto pass legendary resistance actions for. You
did bring up something there. Dragons are very intelligent.
Yeah, extremely.
And a lot of people, as I believe you mentioned earlier, don't play them that way. They just drop into combat, and they're just, you said a giant with wings.
Yeah, a giant with wings, or just a big beat stick, yeah.
Yeah, so they're going to be smart enough. They're going to look at the fight, and when the wizard throws out a spell that's trying to eat at their legendary resistances, oh, that's a spellcaster. Spellcasters are dangerous, but they're not physically powerful. I can now know that he's a priority that I need to kill, where the barbarian in front of me, who's raging and yelling and screaming, was very interesting to look at, isn't necessarily the target I need to be fighting.
Right, yeah.
Even to the point where the dragon might provoke an attack of opportunity, leaving the melee characters to go attack the wizard, threaten the healer, and now all of a sudden, your party's battle plan is falling apart.
Right, yes. Yeah, they're going to drop down, or not they're going to drop down, but they're going to, when they engage the fight, they're going to assess the situation. They're going to go, you're priority number 1, you're priority number 2, I got to watch out for this on you, and then the rest of you are nothing. As long as I take out these 3, the rest of you are not going to be a challenge. As a group, you are all challenging, but if I can take out 1, 2, and then 3, then the last 4, 5, 6, whatever there are, however many there are, whatever. Once I take out the wizard, the cleric, and the druid, I can just, sit here and beat up on some fighters and some rogues.
Yeah, and like one-on-one, a rogue isn't a threat.
Yeah.
The biggest danger of the rogue is he's going to get away.
Yeah, I mean, he can do some spike damage, assuming he has some magic weapons, or some tricks up his sleeve, like I wouldn't count them out as the ability to do some damage, but dragons have hit points. Dragons have high ACs. Dragons have resistances. Dragons can take a hit. And the thief cannot.
and for 5th edition as well, a thief or a rogue character is more effective as part of a group. If you put a rogue on their own, they lose a large amount of their ability to do the sneak attacks, which is really going to limit the amount of damage they can do. They only get 1 attack per round, and they rely on those sneak attack dice to bump up the damage of that attack, so it fits with the fighter doing 2, 3, 4 attacks per round.
Right.
If you take away that that option of doing the sneak attack because your enemy has a hostile target engaged with it, then all of a sudden they're not doing much of anything.
Yeah, it's totally true.
And the dragon would know all that.
Yeah, exactly. And the dragon would know all that because it ain't his first rodeo. I'm sure there's been a few other parties that have come along trying to make a name for themselves.
He is a rodeo veteran.
Yes.
And he really gets his bonus on all the parties that came in there and thought they could wing it.
Yeah. Because
the party needs to have a battle plan. We're doing this show so that you can, as a DM, can run dragons that your party has to have a battle plan to deal with.
Right.
If your players are winging dragons, you need to be taking notes right now about what we're talking about. One of the biggest advantages that a dragon has that we probably should have gotten into earlier, but is just something to bring up for DMs to keep in mind, and that is the Frightful Presence.
Yes. Frightful Presence. Very scary ability. Ha ha ha. 120-foot range, I think it's consistent for their range. On an ancient red dragon, 120-foot range, it can affect any creature it chooses within that range. So it doesn't even have to hit the party right off the bat, but any creature, which also means you can have all its kobold followers or all its minions hanging around without having to worry about pissing themselves. But you can have any creature it chooses to affect within 120-foot range has to make a wisdom save throw. On an ancient red dragon, it's a DC 21 wisdom save. It varies depending on the dragon type and their age category. But ancient red dragon, 21 DC, wisdom save. If it's failed, then the character that fails the saving throw is frightened for 1 full minute, which is 10 rounds of combat.
And your players shouldn't have legendary resistances to make those saves.
They might have a paladin in the group that will help, but still, a 21 wisdom save can be tricky to make. Not everyone's got a huge wisdom save. Not everyone's got proficiency in wisdom. So yeah, a 21's that's a challenging roll to make. You can get lucky. Maybe you got some good pluses, but But still, and if you're frightened, the frightened condition, it makes it so you are no longer able to willfully move towards the target of what caused you to be frightened. So if you're still 100 feet away from the dragon, you can no longer move any closer to that dragon. You can move away from it. You can move laterally. You can keep yourself at that 100-foot mark and move, sidestep, but you're not closing the gap. And you have a disadvantage on any and all attacks that are going at that dragon, as if it even needed that. So if all of a sudden you're the barbarian at 100 feet and you fail your frightful presence roll, you're stuck at 100 feet with your giant greatsword in your hand, just swinging in air, missing, doing nothing, or maybe you're throwing rocks at it at disadvantage.
Go find a minion. I'm gonna go back to fighting the kobolds. You guys handle the dragon.
Yeah, I got all the kobolds. Don't worry about them. So yeah, it's a scary ability. It's something to have to deal with.
Yeah. And again, if your players are planning for it, if they have a paladin in the party, or they have a cleric casting a fear ward, or calm emotions, I think might be able to help with it.
Yeah, bless.
Those are abilities that they are not using to actively be killing the dragon.
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah, but again, if they're preparing for frightful presence, then it won't be as big a deal. And that's just one more reason that characters should be preparing to deal with a dragon. Dragons, in my opinion, should not be random encounters. If a PC stumbles on a dragon that has been planned on being there the whole time, that's a different scenario. But you shouldn't just be all of a sudden they're camping and this ancient red dragon's just like, oh hey, look over there, I'm gonna go kill those guys. Unless you're a really spiteful DM. But if they can prepare, then they can have potions that will bump up their wisdom save throw. They can have, some blesses on the party and give them some extra bonuses. They can make sure they're all within 10 feet of the paladin when that aura goes off. So, they can try to prepare for it and take and ready themselves for that situation, which will make it so they'll probably pass their save. But there's still a chance that one person will still fail. And if one person fails, it still throws everything off.
So we have one more point that we wanted to hit on. And this applies more to earlier editions than to 5th edition. But of course, as the DM, you can say that I like this. It's a rule in my world, and this is the way it works. And that is the ability of dragons innately to polymorph.
Right, yes.
A lot of stories and stuff will use dragons polymorphed into a human or humanoid form and actively working behind the scenes or as kind of a subtle manipulator to use that, because you have just this ordinary person walking around not knowing that they're actually this ancient red dragon or ancient gold dragon, or is it this powerful beast that we spent this past show talking about how amazing and wonderful and powerful they are, and now they just look like everybody else.
Yeah, being able to polymorph. In 5th edition, the metallic dragons can still polymorph, but the chromatic dragons can't. So there's still some options for play there. In previous editions, all dragons could polymorph. Pretty sure, I don't know 4th edition very well. 3.5, I'm pretty sure they all could. I think there's an edition where only the stronger dragons could, so red and gold dragons could, maybe silver and blue, but the white dragon couldn't and stuff like that. But yeah, so it's up to you who you want to be able to polymorph. You're the DM, you have final say. But if you do have them polymorphing, it opens up another whole branch of things you can do with your dragon. You can have them polymorph and take the position of someone important in a town. You can have them, manipulating things behind the scenes. I mean, dragons can always manipulate behind the scenes as a dragon, as this powerful, giant, scary thing. But if all of a sudden they can pose as your, unimposing, take the place of the mayor. I won the vote. I'm the mayor of this town now. I'm going to just slowly start steering them over towards this agenda over here. Yep. Start thwarting adventurers over there.
Oh, the adventurers show up. I'm going to send the city guard just to detain them while we investigate what's going on. And while, the rogue or the barbarian might not go along with that, how does the paladin say no to a guardsman with an arrest warrant saying, I need you to come with me, sir?
Right, yes. So, it opens up a lot of options. An idea that I had when we were talking about polymorph before we started, in the pre-show was to have a red dragon polymorphed and infiltrate the party. To insert himself as some sort of hireling, maybe he's posing as a mercenary that gets hired on, or maybe he's random Joe Schmo that needs some assistance, and hey, can you help me save my wife? Or poses as some sort of, you think he's like a little mini quest giver or some sort of like escort quest where like you need to take him somewhere, or you're helping him, assisting him with something. But all of a sudden in the middle of the night, you know, while the party's sleeping and not waiting, you know, not expecting a dragon attack, all of a sudden he turns back into his dragon form and decides to cook the party. I mean, if you want to TPK a party, that's the way you can do it, you know.
It's a cheap shot, but red dragons aren't going to be above taking cheap shots.
Yeah, I mean, they're intelligent, they have no remorse, they're tactically sound, they're going to take, you know, there is no fair. They're going to take any and all, you know, precautions. They're going to take any and every advantage that they can. And if you have a paladin in the party, then that aura, that divine sense they can kick off multiple times a day would alert them to the presence of the dragon in the group. So it's one of those, like, there are ways that they could find out there's a dragon amongst them. But at the same time, like, it would be really cool to have all of a sudden like this dragon just inserted itself into. Maybe you want to set up an elaborate prologue. Maybe you have the party creates all these first level characters, and then this guy inserts himself into the group, and you torch them in the middle of the night. Next session, you can create a whole new set of characters, and it turns out that they just played through the prologue, and now they're playing the real characters for the quest that they have to go and hunt down and find out what happened to this other group of adventurers. Maybe there's some innocent people in there as well, some random town folk. They have to do some investigation to find out that it was a young, you know, not even an adult or an ancient, but like this young red dragon that was just having some fun. And all of a sudden the party just played through prologue. I mean, I know it's kind of a dirty trick to just TPK the party in the middle of the night, but I think there's some interesting play that you could do with the polymorph in there. And that's just an idea that I just popped up off the top of my head.
No, I like it. So I think that's about where we're going to wrap it up for this. There's a lot going on with dragons. There's a lot more you can do, but we're going to leave you to discover some of those.
Yeah. If you have any more thoughts or questions, leave them in the comments, and we'll get back to you.